Oh, excellent, excellent. It's great to see everybody in. Everybody's in today. So we'll give it 60 more seconds and then we'll get kicked off. We have an amazing panel here today, and we're really thankful that you all chose to spend some time with us on this Tuesday morning to learn about AI governance and to join us in our conversation. This panel discussion will be conversational with the audience. So before we get kicked off, we want to just get a sense of who's on the call, your background, and we can tailor some of the questions to areas of interest as well. In addition to our three great panelists, I also see that we have two very accomplished Healthmetryx advisory board members on the call who can add to some of these conversation points as well. Alexander Polekchik and Bruce Mulatto. So we will we'll introduce those individuals as well. But before we do all of that, let me introduce myself. My name is Louis Young. I am the founder and CEO of Healthmetryx, a breath artificial intelligence and health data analytics company, headquartered out of Boston, Massachusetts. And we are thrilled to have with us today three great panelists. I'll introduce them, starting with Tony Rhem, who PhD, who is an information systems professional with more than 30 years of experience. He's a published author and educator presenting the application and theory of software engineering methodologies, knowledge management, and artificial intelligence. His company, Rhem Associates, is an information systems integration research and training firm specializing in artificial intelligence, and is located in Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here, Louis. Great to be with this distinguished panel, and looking forward to learning as well as communicating the things that I know in this area. So appreciate the invite.
Awesome. Awesome. Next up, we have Roderick Chambers, who is a CISP and a CISM. We'll ask you what that alphabet soup means for the larger audience. Roderick serves as a public and private sector information security and threat intelligence advisor for artificial intelligence at Recorded Futures, the world's largest cyber threat intelligence company. He speaks as an authority on the role of artificial intelligence governance and threat intelligence for the healthcare industry. Mr. Chambers began his career in the federal government, specifically in the intelligence community, where he served in various roles as an intelligence operations professional and technical collections lead. So really great to have you join us today, Roderick.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. Looking very forward to the discussion.
Awesome, awesome. And next up, we have Pamela Kamath, who is the founder and CEO of Adaptive AI, an Ontario, Canada technology and risk consulting company specializing in governance, risk management, and compliance of artificial intelligence. Pam's focus has been on assisting companies to achieve sustainable governance and risk management practices, specializing in AI, data governance, data protection, and data privacy. Pam, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Louis. I'm delighted to be here. And, sitting alongside with Tony and Roderick, I'm very fortunate to be here today. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Polekchik, Alexander, can you come off mute and introduce yourself as well? Dr. Polekchik serves on the Computer Science Advisory Board for Healthmetryx.
Sure. Thank you, everybody. I'm really thankful to be part of this panel here. Just quick introduction. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Northern Iowa. I'm trained as a mathematician, but I moved more and more to AI for drug discovery, studying large biopharmaceutical networks. And I'm more on the technological side and therefore, I'm looking forward to learning a lot from you guys when it comes to other important aspects of AI for healthcare, such as ethics and legal issues and whatnot. So thanks again.
Excellent. Excellent. And then we also have Healthmetryx advisor Bruce Mulatto. Dr. Mulatto, can you come off mute and introduce yourself? It looks like we might have an audio issue with Bruce, so we'll come back to him. But on the line as well, we have, let's go down the list. I see Sean Fredrickson. Sean, would you be able to come off mute and just introduce yourself and why you're interested in learning and what you're interested in learning today?
Hi there. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, my name is Sean Fredrickson. I've been a security leader for companies such as Ping Identity in identity access management and Sumo Logic in observability and security logging and analytics. And AI is one thing that we've rolled out internally for use for our employees and also for our customers.
Excellent, excellent. Well, really great to have you here with us. And then we also have AJ Costa on the line. AJ, could you come off mute, introduce yourself, and talk a little bit about what you're interested in learning today?
Thanks for having me, Louis. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
We normally do Teams at work, and I'm at work today, obviously. So Zoom is like, what's to throw all the different pieces array. So I'm in governance, risk, and compliance. I'm in sales, so I'm newer to software. I've actually known Roderick for a long time. We went to college together, and so you just be able to see him speak on the software side and on the analytics side, I think is going to be interesting for me. So a little altruism here, but also not completely right. Obviously, the information security world is something that I would love to learn, just have deeper knowledge on, especially when it comes to compliance and governance, specifically around risk management. So a little stretch here, a little growth, but also some information gathering and being able to connect with an old friend is always great. So, or at least let them watch them do their thing. So thanks for making space for me as well.
Awesome. Well, we're really glad to have you with us today. And it looks like Bruce, you have your audio. So if you could come off mute, introduce yourself, and speak a little bit about your interests in the subject of AI governance.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. I'm calling in from Switzerland. A member of the advisory board in artificial intelligence of Healthmetryx. I've been doing big data and artificial intelligence for about 20 years. And we never stop learning. So I'm very curious as to what people mean by ethics and proper use of AI, as we've been doing it for 20 years. So maybe we'll learn something new. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And lastly, it looks like we have Jasmine Tolliver on the line. So Jasmine, if you could come off mute, introduce yourself, and just add a little bit about what you are looking to hear today. Jasmine says she's having a technical difficulty. One moment. There we go. Okay. Well, while Jasmine is working on her technical difficulty, it looks like she may need to hop out and hop back in. So Bob, just keep a look on the participants and make sure no one's in the waiting room, and we'll get started. Oh, Sarnath, Professor Ramnath, please hop off of mute and introduce yourself as well. Give a little bit about your background. He also is on the Healthmetryx Computer Science Advisory Board. Let's see if I can pull that.
Hi, hello.
Hi, there you are.
Oh, sorry. Let me try and see if I can Get this camera.
No, we just have to tilt our head, that's all.
Yeah. Just lean over 90 degrees on your chair. I mean, you have these swivel chairs, right? Sorry. Oh, okay, my video stopped. No problem. Yeah.
So Sarnath, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. So I am Sarnath. I am a professor of computer science. And also I've been the department chair here at St. Cloud State for 17 years. So I teach, I've been in a variety of areas. So I have, my big focus now is object-oriented software development, but I've also worked in, in graphics and visualization and in formal verification of software systems. So that's what I do. And as chair, I look at a lot of different things and have very broad knowledge of various things. So.
Well, thanks for joining us, Sarnath. So it looks like Jasmine said that she's back. And Jasmine, so introduce yourself, Jasmine.
Yes, hi. Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I hope everyone's having a great day. I am an entertainment reporter for the HuffPost. I dabble in a lot of writing about how AI is being interwoven into the media. So I'm just very interested to be here to hear about everyone's opinions on AI and the direction that it's headed. I have a lot of interesting stories that I'll write. You all may have heard of the rapper Drake and the singer The Weeknd, how an entire AI song was created for them and the uproar that caused. So I'm just interested. I also consider myself a bit of a nerd. So all of this is very interesting to me. And I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll get things kicked off. And the first question for the panel, this one's the softball question. It'll probably be the easiest question for the entire panel, but just for everyone here, how would you define AI governance as, a C-suite person like myself, as CEO of a company? How would you define AI governance for a practitioner? So Pam, I'll let you kick off, and we'll go Tony and then to Roderick.
Thank you, Lois, and thank you for putting me in the spotlight on this question. It really defines and sets the stage, but I would love for my panelists to join me on this as well, because it's a pretty loaded question and definition, right? When you think about AI governance, the way I think about it is, just take the AI away from it, right? The governance itself means governing or managing an entity or a program effectively. And what does that take? That takes good oversight, leadership, and direction. Now, layer in AI. Why does that make it all the more relevant is AI has fundamental risks associated with it. Those are unique in nature that we are only uncovering in the last few years in how to manage, given the compounded effect these risks have. When you think about the risks, and I know we will go deep into that, we now have ethics, data privacy, reliability and safety, and cybersecurity, and these are ever-evolving risks. So AI governance becomes all the more relevant when managing AI systems and solutions. And to have an authorized leadership empowered to provide oversight and direction on a day-to-day basis, have the appropriate mechanics and processes in place. And I know we can go deep into that as well, such as policy, strategy, framework, all of that becomes integral part of AI governance. And to deal with that more methodically is what a good, successful AI governance means, in my opinion. And, like I said, please feel free to jump in and add. And one other thing that I want to add is governance has always been something that I've supported so many customers in the past with for many, many years. And like I said, it was not just AI governance, it was just governance, right? How do we get this right? How do we put appropriate force and support behind leadership so we can get something done the most effective way.
Okay. Tony, do you want to chime in here? And
Absolutely.
give your definition?
I agree with everything Pam has said. And let me just add a few things. Governance, definitely, it's something that is inherent in any software product or application or service. You got to have governance, but then like Pam said, you layer AI on top of that, and then you have a whole host of situations you have to deal with. But in general, it's about managing and maintaining and also monitoring your application, and especially in AI, because we deal with privacy issues, as Pam pointed out. We deal with ethical issues, and especially depending on the industry that you have these AI applications. Healthcare comes with a whole host of privacy and legal and ethical issues that can be amplified through AI, right? Specifically machine learning applications. And so your governance program has to be something that is continuously, it's not a one and done. Oh, I got governance now, we can just keep moving on. It's something that has to be actively done, has to be something that is part of someone's job to actively monitor and manage and maintain, because over time, your algorithms may start producing results that are unintended, right? Mm-hmm. And so as part of any governance plan, you have to engage your subject matter experts, because they know, and when I talk about monitoring and understanding the results, they know what type of results to look for and what type of results look, that are skewed or look a certain way that, that calls for some caution. Add everything what Pam said and layer on top the monitoring piece with your subject matter experts, and to keep that governance program ongoing, because it's a living, breathing area that has to continue to evolve as the science evolves, as the potential results of the application evolves, and when you want to even update and expand the applications as well.
Okay, and as we get to Roderick, I'll ask Rod, if you could, Pam touched a little bit on the threat landscape, right, of artificial intelligence. So, we talk about that 360-degree threat perception when it comes in that cyber domain. So would you be able to talk about what does the threat landscape look like from an artificial intelligence governance perspective, particularly in the healthcare arena? What types of things should we be aware of?
No, that's actually perfect. I think the key word that we all use for ethical. With AI governance, we look at the policy, standards, and procedures that we try to implement with those individuals producing, using, and implementing AI into our daily lives. And the key standards, what we all said, was ethics. So we look at the threat landscape. While there's so many great things that come from AI, especially from edge AI, which is implemented on the end of our systems, what we as consumers see using your bars and chat GPTs, but also look at the generative AI we build into everything that we can't see. It's ethics involved. And that means while we can use it for good, we can also use it for bad as well. So getting AI, it's just smarter than us. We get very fearful when something is very smart. And if a threat actor can use it to observe what a vulnerability is, AI, tell me what are the top hospitals that have the weakest vulnerabilities or have previously been hit with a phishing attack or ransomware attack. That AI model ethically is not being used in the correct format. And so our threat landscape expands exponentially because it's smarter. It's finding all the things that we want and summarizing it very quickly. The things that we want as users, good users, and those as bad users as well, threat actors we call them. And so from the threat landscape, it's going to get harder. Phishing emails that we used to go through our training and awareness that used to say, hey, if it's misspelled or if the grammar is bad, it's going to be a phishing email. AI fixes that now. When we look at deep fakes, which was before this launch of AI in January, threat actors using it before. Just like we're looking at each other on the screen right now, deep fakes are the look and feel of a real human being. Backgrounds, mannerisms, hair, language, everything. That was AI beforehand. You know, how do we ethically use that for good? And then, but also, how could it be ethical? How could it be used against us as well for bad as well? So the threat landscape expands exponentially to the things we couldn't even fathom and think about. So you have a technology and algorithm that's smarter than us, it's helping us do our work. So I know we'll probably get into this more and more, but with AI, it's a threat actor's dream world now, because they can use it to really make their operations a lot better.
So what I'm hearing, especially as this putting on the CEO hat, is that this needs to be something that's ongoing, continuous, but also has different moving parts from a threat perspective, but also thinking through the ethical, aligning the ethical values of your business with certain steps of actions and processes and feedback loops that ensure certain standards of activity are kept and maintained. Does that sound about
Yes,
right?
Lois, yes, very much
Yep.
right. But I do want to add one other thing that we may have missed out, and happy to hear from anyone in the audience who feel strongly about it. One thing about AI governance is it's becoming a strategic capability. It has to be alongside other strategic pillars of the organization, such as your profitability or sustainability reporting, or how do you manage other strategic initiatives. This is a capability that needs to be managed at the CEO level, alongside other C-suite leaders, with board oversight. I did want to add the board oversight. There should be a couple of components in the board that's very relevant to AI governance. One is the risk oversight, and experts in the board who understand the implications of AI governance and the technology itself. I did want to kind of close that loop because I feel it's important from the leadership standpoint to connect these dots.
Okay, Roderick?
And definitely a good test for a lot of those that are currently working. I look at it, things that we already had in place. So this software development lifecycle. When you're creating a product that you want to put out for consumers, we always say the SDLC, the secure software development lifecycle. In the past, we look at every startup, every company, we've always kind of failed at implementing security. We have a limited amount of budget. We need to get the product out there. We build the product for the consumer as quickly as possible, with security coming later in the process. Maybe when you get more funds for web application testing, maybe when you get more funds to hire security development personnel, maybe when your company reaches 100 people, then you can actually hire a dedicated CISO, a chief information security officer, or a chief technology officer. So if we look at our past developing software, we've always missed the secure part. So now when you take AI, a very smart algorithm put on top, which can be very beneficial, if we haven't been able to even do that in our current software development lifecycle effectively, how do we expect to do this with something much more sophisticated? So you do need all your teams, your CEOs, your boards, your developers, your business operations officer, your chief financial officer. Everybody has to be involved to say, hey, from an ethical, we all said ethics part of this, being responsible about this AI. We have got to embed security from the conception point. We put it on the whiteboard and start drawing it out. In the past, many companies have failed and they've gotten better. We can't fail on AI at the very beginning. We have to embed security at the very beginning, at the conception stage.
Okay.
Can I say something there? No, sorry, I'll have to leave soon after this, but I hope you don't mind, Luis. Is that okay?
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
The thing that I want to say here is, I'm not an expert on AI governance, by any means, but the issue that was just raised by Roderick is at the key of this. The point is, this is an issue that has been brought up by people who are writing about, what software claims to do and what it does. Bertrand Meyer, in one of his essays in 2013, wrote about this and said, in fact, they said we should stop calling software engineers engineers, because engineers have to conform to standards. They are held liable if something is wrong, a product is not. In software engineering, there are no standards and there is no liability. So the point is, what you're claiming to do, what the software does, what damage it does, it crashes a few Boeing aircraft. Nobody, the software is not held accountable for anything. And on the top of that mix, without first bringing the accountability in, you're adding more of this power. I mean, software inherently has the characteristics that you don't know what it can do. I mean, whereas with hardware, we're very clear exactly what it does. I mean, with software, there's always the problem. We don't know exactly what it does. And there is a fix for this. In fact, there was an ACM talk just 2 weeks ago called Correctness by Design. And if you follow that thread and see what does it mean. And now, so when you write specifications, you say exactly what you want and what should be possible and what should not be possible. And the person coding has the obligation to certify that these are being adhered to by my program. There is a way of proving all these things correct. I mean, the thing they throw in our face all the time, the cost of development is going to go up. But I'm saying, no, we are not even building it into the first time we teach them programming. We show them that there's something fun for them to play with, and they get into this. And that's how they want to see programming all along. They don't want to see that they're being held accountable for exactly what they've written. And the AI problem is no different. This is the problem. You have produced the software, you're claiming to do this. You're just showing me all the great things it does when everything flows correctly. But is that all it does? And does it do this all the time? There is absolutely no assurance whatsoever that this thing is really doing only what it does. And hence, all our problems stem from this one premise that we've just given software a free ride, to come in and here, whereas we're holding everyone to so much accountability, product recalls, and they have to absorb all that cost into the thing, and none of that has happened. And that is the source of all of this. I mean, today it's AI. There's going to be more sophisticated AI coming out. They're thinking of physics-aware neural networks and all kinds of things. I mean, this is, and it's all going to interconnect. We don't even have a clue what it's going to do. And we've gone ahead.
To that point, I see Bruce has his hand up. Bruce,
Sorry.
second. No, but to that point, I want to come back and ask Tony this question, because it was brought up by Pam and Roderick in terms of aligning the boards with some of the things that are happening tactically, right? So you have tactical implementation and strategic level insights that are generated from the board and shared with the management team for execution. So Tony, this question goes to you. From a board governance perspective and thinking about the role of AI and AI governance, and we think about ethics, how do we think about that from the board strategic level, and then make sure that we're aligned at the strategic level down tactically towards implementation? Because we need to have strategic intent and then think about what we're going to do tactically in order to achieve the corporation's objectives for shareholders. So, how do you tackle that, and what types of things have you seen in your experience?
Well, it's a few things I want to address here. One, from the board perspective, I have an actual training that I do for board directors and C-level executives on AI. Right, we have to come to a basis of understanding what AI is, what it means to your organization, what type of solutions are you trying to develop, and why, okay? And understand what are the use cases involved and all the ramifications of developing and implementing this software. Just like the previous person, I forgot his name, that was going through the testing and all that piece. From a board level, they don't really understand the tactical ramifications of some of this software because they don't understand overall what AI is, what AI means for their organization. You need to level set there first, right? Get that understanding. And then I always work with my clients to get a quote unquote diverse team. I call it diversity of thought.
Mhm.
So in this diverse team, you not only have diversity of culture, we have a diversity of background and experience. That's why you have risk management people. That's why you have SMEs in the areas that you want to develop the software in. That's why you have knowledge management people to understand how knowledge flows throughout your organization. That's why you have specific people with AI skills. That's why you have the HR folks and that understand what some of the policies are that we may need to be aware of. And your industry, understand how that application is going to affect the outcomes of certain things with your industry. Those types of understanding has to be raised, like Roderick said, to the board level, and Pam just laid it out, right? So it's like that has to be communicated to the board level. They have to, one, understand what the AI is and what it means to the organization, but then tactical ramifications of those applications, right? Because you're going to have multiple AI applications. Every AI application approaches a different part of your business or a different business use case. So you have to understand how those things work in your overall plan. And the one thing I see that organizations don't do enough of is strategy, right? So when I talk to my clients, we talk about not only from a board level educating, but actually developing an AI strategy. What does that vision and mission look like? What are your guiding principles? What are the guardrails? Mm-hmm. The other individuals talking about testing. In my experience, I've been in AI since in the late 80s. And the software period, we always have testing, quality assurance. Nothing gets implemented, nothing, until it passes and is approved by the people that need to, all the way up to the VP level in the QA area. And risk management is involved, right? So you have risk management plans and governance plans already. So layer AI on top of that, you align the AI piece with your already existing risk management and governance processes, and those people in those areas also bring in experts in that AI field that they're addressing to make sure it is aligning with the results that you intend for them to align to. All of this gets funneled back up to the board level because the CEO has to know, because they have fiduciary responsibility. Anybody heard about that? Fiduciary responsibility to make sure that their applications do no harm, right? And because there are legal ramifications, I wish we had somebody in the legal field that can address this. There are multiple legal ramifications of if AI starts to do damage to the public, especially now that we have public-facing AI. People are jumping all over. Oh my God, this can do everything. We got to make sure that we understand what we're releasing. And Roderick hit the nail on the head, right? Because what they do, a lot of times we release software before it's ready for revenue generating purposes. We have to get away from that to understand if we release software before it's ready, the revenue ramifications, you want to meet revenue projections and things like that, but your legal ramifications may undo all the revenue plans that you have. So it's that, we have to get legal involved as well. So it's, at the end of the day, it's a team effort, that diversity and all these people coming together to say, put the stamp on it, now it's ready for release. So from the board level all the way to tactical, all the way to the release, has to be that communication. So
excellent. Bruce, I see you had your hand up.
Yeah, I want to agree with a lot that Tony has mentioned, but I want to bring a different angle here. I think one of the problems that we are seeing as of late is the mystification of AI. AI becomes a buzzword as opposed to a technology. And we sort of godify AI into something that is not. And I think Tony raised a very good point. I mean, AI is a technology that is very good at processing, understanding data, and modeling in many dimensions, all right? But it's a technology like nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, silicon, electronic, whatever. You cannot release a product unless it has been thoroughly tested. End of the story. There's just basically not make it more complicated than it is. So what you cannot do, of course, and that's one of the issues that is raising the so-called ethics. Sorry, I've been in this business for too long. It's the first time I hear the word ethics in the past 2-3 years, so I'm a little bit conflicted. The issue is that if you develop an AI algorithm, so Healthmetryx wants to open up the AI space to very large amounts of data, okay? Whatever algorithm you develop has to be extremely thoroughly tested to avoid biases. You have to check for biases, all right? So the moment you say, I have made due diligence, like you develop a car or you develop an engine or you develop whatever, then you can say the specifications have been met and we are ready to go to the next level. Okay, but before that due diligence is performed, we cannot release an algorithm. I mean, and this is probably what's happening very often. You have people with great ideas that want to release something very quickly to the market, but they don't perform due diligence in checking those algorithms. And software has to be very thoroughly checked. So I just would like to make sure that AI is just not, it's not a mythical creature. It's just a complex technology. That's all that you have to understand, and we have to understand. So I think we need to avoid the mystification of AI and move away from that and be more concrete. If we want to build a business, that Healthmetryx is trying to do, we focus on the showcases and the questions we want to answer, and on that basis only, do you develop the corresponding AI and answer those questions, and then ask yourself, am I answering those questions correctly? Yes or no? And that's to me, I mean, of course you use different language, but I would really like to support what Tony was saying. Is really checking what you're doing. That brings you to the end point.
If I may add, Louis, is that okay?
Absolutely,
That's
the whole point.
You know, what a great feedback from Tony and Bruce, and I think that's a great triage in terms of what construct you need to have from the organization standpoint between board, CEO, and committees. When I say committee, I speak about two different leadership. One is the ethical committee, and the other one is AI risk leader or someone with a great understanding of risk management within the realm of AI. And those risks need to align with your AI strategy or your roadmap. Because to Bruce's point, people are all over the place today, and for the right reasons, because you are, by putting an AI system in place, you are transferring human traits to AI. You know, what used to sit in your employee handbook is now sitting in the machine. And therefore, the machine is making decisions to some degree, right? To have the deeper understanding of what your roadmap is and what that ethical choices is now being made through this machine instead of humans that used to be part of that, being between employees and your customers. You want to understand what those are and put the appropriate guardrails and risk management pieces. So, and I think it's a great triage between organization construct and how you manage risks based on your roadmap. And I want to add something here very quickly. It's with what happened with Titan submersible, right? Very recently it imploded. And why did that implode? Between innovation and taking it to commercial or the scale up, what did we miss? Safety and reliability testing. And I think that kind of highlights what Rodriguez said, and as well as what Bruce said. There has to be due diligence. It has to be tested. And those examples and the recent ones, Titan submersible, SVB, lack of solid risk management and board oversight. You know, these are tried and true example right in front of us, and they don't even have AI component tied to it. Right? I mean, we talk about AI again, it goes back to mystical thing. It's not, I mean, you look at SVB, you look at Titan submersible, they had no AI side to it, but it was a lack of governance, the lack of risk management, and that good organization construct between leadership and entities, and I think was the miss. And I just wanted to highlight, because I think what Tony and Bruce said resonated with me in how I see this.
And I want to ask this question of Roderick. So we got some insights as to the strategic thinking. Now at the tactical level, and what Pam, to add and to build off of what Pam was talking about, there are some key challenges in that give and take between AI governance policies that balance innovation and risk management. Now, the question for Roderick is, what types of tactical strategies can be leveraged to keep risk management ongoing at the speed of business? So if I'm CEO and I'm coordinating with my board, coordinating with engineers, coordinating with these large corporations like AWS, et cetera, and I have certain objectives, milestones, and considerations and growth targets that I want to hit, my next question to you, Roderick, is, all right, how do I do this at the speed of business? How can I keep risk management occurring at a sustained and critical operations tempo while balancing out the rest of my company's obligations?
Great question. And this is going to stream into a couple of areas that we're looking at: supply chain security, vendor security, having your risk management officer look at your business continuity, disaster recovery, incident response plan, bring in legal as well too. And I'll give you a couple examples of what that looks like, bring up at the speed of business. If you look at, because AI, and again, demystifying AI, absolutely agree with you. We have been dealing with AI for a number of years. It just became the buzzword in January. If you ever communicated on a auto insurance site and a little pop-up pops up on the bottom, that's AI. If you ever communicated on Microsoft Word and it corrects some of your grammar, gives you a better recommendation, that's AI. We've been dealing with AI for years and years. But if you take SolarWinds, big cyber event, you take Spring4Shell, you take Log4j, you take Microsoft Exchange, okay? At the time that these items were invented and published, it was secure. It went through a quality assurance process. But over the years, vulnerabilities emerged, such as Log4j. That was designed to build calculators back in 2001, 2002. And all developers did was take a code that worked and recycle it. Recycling everything we did. Continuous, ongoing monitoring. But if you look now at startups, we use a lot of vendors: AWS, Amazon Web Services for infrastructure, Heroku, Microsoft Azure. What does your vendor security look like? And not that 380 questionnaire you send out to every vendor to answer, but what do you look at with that vendor? How often are they pen testing? How often are they doing a risk assessment? How often do they patch? How often do they communicate when there's a serious vulnerability? The situation is not so much the AI. If you look at SolarWinds, Log4j, and Spring4Shell, threat actors exploited a vulnerability in another product to get to the end goal. Same thing with AI, is only an add-on. We look at your vendor, if a threat actor can get in through your infrastructure, AI is only an add-on. It's just a byproduct of software that you provide, whether it's generating an instant quote, generating a prescription, generating whatever that end goal is. AI is just an add-on, a byproduct for that. Threat actors are looking for other vulnerabilities in your system. So in order to keep up with the speed of business, risk management must say, hey, do we have the resources to bring on AI? What type of data are we including with AI? If you have operations in the European Union, you're bound by general data protection regulation. You don't have to be a lawyer to figure that one out. Any data breach, you're fined at a minimum of 20 million pounds or 10% of your business revenue, okay? They just say data breach. They don't care if it's AI. They don't care if it's through API. They don't care if it's through your UI. A data breach, okay? So now your risk officer can go in and say, hey, bring on AI. Do we have the resources to continuously monitor for vulnerabilities? Do we have the resources to go to our vendors and have them maintain a level of security that could help us produce and maintain AI? That's where that comes into play, because we use a lot of vendors now. So we outsource a lot. What does your incident response plan looks like? Not about AI, where the AI your product was breached. And by default, your AI has been compromised. What does our incident response program look like? Does our security operations center, our SOC, can they respond to this event? That's the kind of the holistic point of view, is not focusing on AI, but just product security, data security. What data are we capturing? Are we capturing social security numbers? Are we capturing PCI data? All those are bound by compliance. If your legal comes into play, it doesn't make a difference to AI or UI, but you have to be PCI certified if you're taking in payment card data. Well, they're going to go through those checks. That's the continuous monitoring. ISO 27001 is certification that you need for anything digital, UI. You have your NIST certification that you can get. You have your risk assessment, your pen test. That's the holistic point of view that protects and demystifies AI. It's just to add on to your product that you have there. So if you're able to keep up with those areas, then I would say, as a risk manager, yes, we can add in AI as much as we want. But if you're deficient in any one of those areas, or you can't comfortably say that you can defend or respond to those types of events, maybe you should rethink AI. Maybe you should go a different direction in your product, what you're trying to offer.
Well, I'll also add there too, is that, you know, the C-suite has to think through these things as a risk versus gain calculus, right? Short-term risk versus long-term gain. And so you think about GDPR and 20 million pound fine for a data breach versus asking your VC for what, a 10% increase in your use of funds so you can focus on routine, continuous cybersecurity to mitigate your downside risk. I mean, we pay insurance policies more for less disastrous things.
Lewis, on that, I say the approach should be risk-based. Obviously, there's two things. Everything that Rod said makes perfect sense in terms of having that oversight on continuous monitoring. But there's one thing we can do to kind of roll it back to AI governance standpoint, having the right framework in place, be it whether you're NIST, SHOP, or ISO, making sure that you have that comprehensive view of risks you want to manage, and where you would do an annual risk assessment versus continuous monitoring, right? You obviously want to have, we talked about bias, we talked about privacy, but a couple of those dimensions, you can think about annual bias audit or privacy impact assessment, having a good set of questions that you can ask your stakeholders, be it third party or your own internal organization. How are we stacking up with our risks? Again, you have your benchmarks. You can say, for, as an example, my disclosures, I want to be at this level. Set a level for yourself, target yourself. I want to make sure this is important. This is important for my customers. And then on the threat intelligence side, like Rod said, make that continuous. What can I put? What tools and techniques can I put in place so I'm being reported on any vulnerabilities I have on a regular basis? I cannot wait for my quarterly or annual assessment. So having that within your governance, what framework, what are your standards and regulations that you need to align to, be it HIPAA, am I going with NIST? What are some of the key controls or thresholds that I want to manage against? Where would I implement continuous and where would I go with maybe annual kind of, and how am I going to get the report back? And I think just connecting those dots are something that most companies don't get well, unfortunately. They either kind of do one end of it and not kind of roll it back to the right reporting level. So they have that, very holistic understanding of that risk-based approach that I said. Because sometimes you can only do 3 things and reduce your risk exposure significantly. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to boil the ocean. But if you take care of 3 or 4 very important ones, you can significantly reduce your risk exposure. And knowing what that is the most important thing that a company needs to accomplish on a regular basis.
Okay, I have a question for Bruce. If you could come off mute. The question is, you spent the last 20 plus years, 25 years working with CERN, and you had work during the Higgs boson particle discovery. Now, I remember a lot of the doomsday news that came out with the CERN research and not knowing what would happen. You know, are we going to just implode ourselves and all that sort of stuff? And it seems very reminiscent of what we're hearing about AI and its potential impacts. So I want to just understand what the risk calculation, if you could talk about some of the risk calculations that were done at CERN to push forward with this innovation, to push forward with the science and these breakthroughs, but to also manage the risks of some of the ambiguity statistically and knowing whether or not some of these things will work or cause catastrophe.
I don't seem to be able to show my face, but no worries. Yes, I remember the days when we were sued by a teacher in Hawaii that we were going to create a black hole that would swallow everybody whole, and then Earth would disappear as we know it. That never happened because you run calculations to ensure that whatever is going to take place, given the energy or whatever it is you do, that nothing will explode. This is basically going back to the point of due diligence. Due diligence is about testing everything you do thoroughly so that what comes out is an expected outcome. The Higgs boson was, in fact, one of the major scientific discoveries that was done with the use of artificial intelligence. And that artificial intelligence, that machine learning had been thoroughly checked for many, many years. And we only had one shot, so we couldn't get it wrong. So as such, you had to do a tremendous amount of due diligence and testing to avoid strange answers. So controlling the algorithm, testing the algorithm is 90% of the job. Developing the model is really 10% of the job. So that's where it goes. So it really basically, it has significance for any algorithmic development in general, that without testing, you can't simply release, and that manages your risk. That is not to say that there were no mistakes. There were mistakes committed. We had an accident in 2008 that led to a 2-year delay. It's something that happened because of a minor issue that turned out to be much bigger than anticipated. But again, the amount of testing and thinking that went into the use of AI was simply magnificent.
Excellent. I really love that point. We have 2 minutes before we wrap up. So we'll hit Roderick, and then Tony, you can close us out. Roderick.
Yep, I know we got 2, I'm sorry about that, but I really want to just bring us all back into the focus here. I know we talked a lot about threat actors exposing hidden vulnerabilities, and I really want to go back just real quick on the ethics part, okay? With a working operational AI, okay, it's kind of going back to the recent lawsuits with just someone taking, Drake and the music and copying it over, or students who were talking about AI about being able to write their tests or do their homework. Or if I got on the app, say, give me information on the top 10 people in my industry, who are my competitors, what are their weaknesses, who did they not get? I think the ethics part comes into training the algorithm so that people, when they ask the type of question that I ask, that the algorithm is smart enough to say, ethically, you can't do that. If you went across the street right now, if I went and copied a essay from the Webster's from encyclopedia, that's plagiarism. Ethically, there's a student code of rights. You're not supposed to do that. I think I have a lot more faith in humanity, that, there's creativity. Our AI was designed, I feel like, to make our jobs more efficient, to do those mundane things that we do every day to get to our creative aspect. But people will take those things, plagiarism, copying over music records, getting competitive advantage. It's doing what it's supposed to do, And so ethically running those tests is very hard because it's humans. What's everything we could think of? You're just talking to a computer, and it's really digging everywhere in the world for the information, how do we put ethical boundaries around it? That's a question. That's an answer I don't have right now. It's going to take even another AI to watch over the AI to make sure that AI doesn't give you the right one. Now we're getting into Skynet, you know. But I know we talked about AI governance. I think that's one of the things that I think subject matter expertise we're going to have to come from that, looking at it from that point of view.
I appreciate that. Tony, take us home.
Roger, that's great. I'm going to segue right into what he was talking about. One is that all our conversation around risk and risk management and things like that, we want to also do risk mitigation, right? So you find that this is a possible risk. What is your risk mitigation strategy to address those risks? When something happens, you need to say, okay, this is happening. We know what we need to do to respond to this. So that's number one. Let's think about risk mitigation. Number two, what we did not get a chance to dive into is black box, programming with AI, because you have large language models and you have deep learning algorithms, and we look for to mitigate risks, understand the potential for bias, is to be able to have transparency and explainability within these algorithms. It is extremely difficult to have explainability and traceability with large language models, to what Roger just pointed out. You don't know where it's going, getting this information to give you the final answer. And with deep learning algorithms, there are mitigation, interoperability, interpretability strategies. But then again, it goes back to what Roger said before. They have AI tools to do some of that. So it's like, okay, we really need to kind of break this into chunks and do a more agile, iterative type of development, and be able to gradually understand how these algorithms work. And as we build them up, make sure we still continue to evolve our risk mitigation and risk assessment for these algorithms. So that's what I wanted to.
I appreciate that as well. This has been an amazing panel. I want to thank all of you for your participation. This was a great discussion, and we will likely be having more of these discussions. I feel like we need a part 2 discussion to this as well. But maybe we'll do a larger AI and health session over the coming weeks, and we'll set that up, and maybe Jasmine can come back and be our moderator, and we'll keep it going. So I want to thank everyone for their participation, and we will all be in touch. So everyone, take care and have a great rest of your week.
All right, thank you. Looking forward to part 2.
All right.